She said I was too poor to be her mother, until the world took everything from her. The day my daughter erased me. The last time I saw my daughter, she was standing in my doorway like a stranger wearing my child's face. Mom, I can't live like this anymore. Her eyes swept across my small apartment, the faded couch, the thrift store curtains, the chipped mug in my hand. Each object seemed to offend her existence. Like what? I asked, though my heart already knew.
Poor.
The word landed like a slap. Not quiet, not gentle.
Loud.
Final. I'm moving in with Ethan, she continued, lifting her designer suitcase, the one I'd spent 3 months' rent helping her buy for college. His family has a house in the Hamptons. I deserve better. Deserve. I raised her alone. Worked double shifts in a Chicago hospital cafeteria. Skipped meals so she wouldn't have to. Sold my wedding ring when tuition came due. I am better than this life, she said, her voice sharp with embarrassment. And I'm tired of pretending you didn't fail. Something inside my chest cracked open. Amelia, I whispered.
She didn't even hug me.
Please don't contact me, she said, already turning away. It's humiliating. Then she walked out, not like a daughter leaving home, but like a woman escaping a stain. The silence she left behind was louder than any scream. That night, I sat on the floor where she used to play with dolls and realized my child hadn't just left. She had disowned me, and I had no idea that one day she would be the one begging to come back. Before I continue, please subscribe to my channel to see more interesting stories. Thank you. The life she chose over me. Social media became my punishment. Amelia didn't block me. She wanted me to see champagne on yachts, designer dresses, private jets. Smiling beside Ethan, the tech investor's son who had swept her into a world I could never afford. Finally living the life I deserve. One caption read. Thousands of likes. Hundreds of comments. Not one mention of the woman who raised her. I learned more about my daughter from strangers than from her. She moved to Manhattan, attended charity galas, posed in penthouses with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Her life looked like a magazine spread. Meanwhile, mine shrank. I picked up extra shifts. My knees ached constantly. The apartment grew quieter every day, like the walls themselves were giving up. Then came the interview. Amelia sat on a morning talk show, laughing lightly as the host asked about her humble beginnings. My mom did her best, she said, smiling apologetically. But I had to break free from that environment. Environment? Like I was pollution. I always knew I was meant for more. That was the moment something inside me changed. Not anger. Not even sadness.
Clarity.
I stopped watching her life and started rebuilding mine. Because if my daughter believed I was nothing, then she would never see what I was becoming. The secret I never told her. 3 months after Amelia left, I received a letter that changed everything. It came from a law firm in Boston. At first, I thought it was a mistake.
Or a bill.
Or some administrative nonsense. Instead, it was about my estranged uncle. A quiet man who had disappeared from family gatherings decades ago. He had died. And he had left everything to me. I almost laughed. There was no everything to leave. He'd lived alone in a modest house, barely speaking to anyone. Then I saw the number. My hands started shaking so violently, I had to sit down. Apparently, Uncle Robert had been an early investor in several tech companies. He never spent his money, never married, never had children. I was his only surviving relative who had shown him kindness when he was alive. The inheritance wasn't just large. It was life-altering, enough to buy homes, start businesses, change futures. Enough to give Amelia the lifestyle she thought she deserved. But I didn't call her. For the first time in my life, I kept something from my daughter. Because a question echoed in my mind. Would she have stayed if she had known? And deeper still, did she love me or just what I could give her? I decided to find out. Becoming someone she wouldn't recognize. Money didn't fix the emptiness, but it gave me something else.
Choice.
I left Chicago and moved to a quiet coastal town in North Carolina. Bought a modest beachfront house. Nothing flashy, just peaceful. Waves instead of sirens. Sunsets instead of neon lights. For the first time in decades, I slept through the night. I invested carefully. Took business classes. Partnered in a small hospitality company. Turns out, survival skills make excellent business instincts. Within 2 years, that small investment grew into a thriving boutique hotel chain along the East Coast. I didn't chase luxury. I built stability.
No paparazzi.
No flashy parties. Just steady growth and quiet success. Sometimes, I searched Amelia's name online. Her life looked even bigger now. Engagement photos in Paris, diamond rings the size of marbles, headlines announcing Ethan's newest startup valuation. She looked radiant. Untouchable.
Happy.
But there was something in her eyes that I recognized. The same restless hunger she had as a child when nothing was ever enough. I wondered if she ever thought about me. Then one evening, while reviewing expansion plans for a new property in Miami, I saw a news alert flash across my screen. Ethan's company under federal investigation. Stock plummeting. Fraud allegations. My stomach dropped. Not because I hated him, but because I knew exactly what happens when a life built on luxury starts to collapse. And I had a terrible feeling my daughter was about to learn that lesson the hard way. When the world turned on her, the scandal exploded overnight. Accounts frozen, properties seized, investors suing, friends disappearing like smoke. The same social circles that had worshipped Amelia now pretended they had never met her. Paparazzi photos showed her leaving court in oversized sunglasses, her posture no longer regal but defensive. Ethan vanished first. Taking time abroad, the headline said. Translation, he ran. Amelia stayed behind to face the consequences, public scrutiny, mounting debts, and a lifestyle she could no longer afford. Her Instagram went silent. Then came the final blow. A tabloid article revealed she had co-signed several of Ethan's financial documents. Legally entangled. Personally responsible. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not with triumph. With a strange, aching sorrow.
This was still my child.
But she had chosen a world that devoured people the moment they stopped being useful. A week later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Something, maybe instinct, maybe fate, made me answer. For a moment, there was only breathing on the other end. Then a voice I hadn't heard in 4 years, fragile and unrecognizable, whispered, Mom. My heart stopped. Please, Amelia said, her voice breaking. I don't have anyone else. I closed my eyes as tears slipped down my face. Because the girl who once called me humiliating was now calling me her last hope. And I knew this conversation would change everything. The voice that didn't sound like my daughter. I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't recognize the person on the other end. Amelia had always spoken like the world owed her attention. Her voice used to glide, confident and polished, like she was rehearsing for an audience. Now it trembled. Mom, please don't hang up. I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Why are you calling me, Amelia? My voice sounded calm. Eerily calm. Even to myself. A broken laugh escaped her. Because I finally understand. Understand what? That you are the only person who ever loved me without expecting something back. Silence swallowed us. Then she whispered, I lost everything. I imagined her somewhere cold and unfamiliar, stripped of the glamorous armor she used to wear like skin. Where are you? I asked. New Jersey.
A motel.
Her voice cracked. They're going to evict me tomorrow. The girl who once complained about thread counts and private chefs was now afraid of losing a motel room. A part of me wanted to drive through the night and bring her home immediately. Another part, the wounded mother who had spent years stitching herself back together, stayed very still. Why didn't you call Ethan's family? They said I was a liability. The word hit harder than anything else. Because that's exactly what she had treated me like. Mom, she whispered again. Can I come home? I stared at the ocean outside my window. Home. She didn't even know where I lived. And for the first time, I realized something powerful. My daughter wasn't calling the mother she abandoned. She was calling a stranger, who now held all the power. My conditions. I'll help you, I said quietly. Her sob came out like a gasp of relief. Oh my God, thank you, Mom. But not like before. The words stopped her instantly. You don't get to erase 4 years with one phone call, I continued. If you come here, it won't be as a guest. And it won't be as someone entitled to anything. Confusion crept into her voice. I don't understand. You will live by my rules. Silence. I could almost hear her pride fighting for oxygen. What kind of rules? You'll work. You'll contribute. No designer shopping, no luxury demands, no running away when things feel beneath you. Her breathing grew uneven. And most importantly, I said, my voice steady as stone, you'll not tell anyone who you are or why you're here. Why? She whispered. Because if you're truly here for me, you won't need an audience. Minutes passed before she spoke again. I'll do anything. Not confident, not dramatic, just exhausted. Then come, I said, giving her the address in North Carolina. She wrote it down carefully, like it was something sacred. Before hanging up, she asked in a small voice, Mom, are you still angry with me? I looked at the waves crashing against the shore, relentless, unforgiving, beautiful. No, I said honestly. I'm just not the same woman you left. The arrival. 2 days later, a rideshare pulled into my driveway. I watched from the porch as Amelia stepped out. For a moment, I didn't recognize her. The girl who once glowed under camera flashes now looked washed out, smaller somehow. Her clothes were expensive but wrinkled, like they'd been slept in. Her hair, once styled to perfection, hung limp around her face. She looked human. When her eyes found mine, they widened with shock. Mom, this house. The ocean roared behind me, sunlight reflecting off the water like scattered diamonds. You live here? Yes. How? She breathed. Hard work. Good decisions. Time. Not entirely a lie. She walked toward me slowly, like approaching something fragile. For a second, I thought she might hug me. Instead, she stopped a few feet away, uncertainty written across her face. I don't deserve this, she said quietly. That was the first honest thing she had ever said to me as an adult. You're right, I replied gently. You don't. Her eyes filled with tears. But you're still my daughter, I added. That's when she broke. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing like the little girl who used to crawl into my bed after nightmares. And for a moment, just a moment, I held her without judgment. Because revenge wasn't about hurting her. It was about making sure she never became that cold stranger again. Still, as I led her inside, I couldn't ignore the question pulsing in my mind. Would she love me if she knew the truth? The job offer. The next morning, I handed her a uniform. Plain navy polo. Khaki pants. Comfortable shoes. She stared at them like they were radioactive. What is this? Your job. Her eyes flicked up. Job where? At the Seabrookin. Recognition didn't spark, because she had no idea it was one of the most sought-after boutique hotels on the coast. I got you a housekeeping position, I continued. Her lips parted slightly. Housekeeping. You said you'd do anything. She swallowed hard. The old Amelia would have laughed in my face. Or stormed out. Or called it degrading. Instead, she nodded slowly. Okay. Just okay. I drove her there in silence. When we arrived, the manager greeted us warmly. Not as my employee, but as someone doing me a favor. Amelia didn't notice the subtle respect in his tone. Her first task was simple: cleaning rooms, changing sheets, scrubbing bathrooms, emptying trash. I watched from the lobby balcony as she pushed the cart down the hallway, shoulders tense but determined. Hours passed. At the end of her shift, she came downstairs with red eyes and trembling hands. I didn't quit, she said hoarsely, like she needed me to know. I didn't think you would. She sank into a chair. Do people do this every day? Yes. And they survive on this paycheck? Yes. Tears spilled down her cheeks, not from humiliation, from realization. I never saw them, she whispered. All those people. I never even looked at them. For the first time, my daughter wasn't the center of her own world. She was seeing everyone else. And that was the first crack in the armor she had built around her heart. The truth she wasn't ready for. Weeks passed. Amelia worked every shift assigned to her.
No plans. No excuses.
Just quiet endurance. She started cooking simple meals, going to bed early, watching the ocean like it might explain something about life she had missed. Then one evening, she asked a question that stopped my heart. Mom, why didn't you tell me you were struggling back then? I set down my teacup carefully. I didn't want you to carry my burdens. Her jaw tightened. I left because I thought you'd never change, that we'd always be stuck. I waited. But you did change, she said softly, glancing around the house. You built something beautiful. I studied her face, searching for traces of the girl who had once called me humiliating. Amelia, I said gently, do you love me or this life? She looked stunned. I love you, she said immediately, then hesitated. Honesty wrestled across her features. I don't know what love is supposed to feel like anymore. That answer hurt, but it was real. Later that night, after she went to bed, I opened my laptop and reviewed the financial documents for my company. The same company that owned the Seabrook Inn. The same company where my daughter was scrubbing toilets. She had no idea. Not about the inheritance. Not about the business. Not about the future I was quietly preparing for her. Because the greatest lesson wasn't about poverty or wealth. It was about character. And I needed to know one thing before I revealed everything. Had life humbled her? Or just broken her? The man who recognized her. It happened on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Amelia was wiping down tables in the Seabrook Inn Cafe when a man in an expensive suit froze mid-step. I saw it from across the lobby. The exact moment recognition hit him. Amelia? She stiffened. Slowly, she turned around, her face draining of color. Mr. Calloway, she whispered. I didn't know the name, but I knew power when I saw it. The man's expression wasn't kind. It was calculating. We've been looking for you, he said smoothly. Ethan's investors would love a word. Her hands began to shake so badly, she dropped the cleaning cloth. I don't know anything, she said quickly, panic rising in her voice. He leaned closer. You signed documents, sweetheart. That makes you accountable. I started walking toward them, my heart pounding. Is there a problem? I asked calmly. He glanced at me dismissively. Family matter. I'm her mother. The words came out before I could stop them. His eyebrows shot up. Really? Because from what I heard, she didn't have one. The cruelty was deliberate. Amelia looked like she'd been slapped. She works here, I continued, steady and cold. If you have legal concerns, contact her attorney. He studied me for a long moment, as if reassessing everything. Then he smiled, not warmly, but like a predator deciding to wait. This isn't over, he said, handing Amelia a card before leaving. The moment the door closed, she collapsed into a chair, trembling violently. I'm so sorry, she choked. I didn't mean to bring trouble to your life. I placed a hand on her shoulder. Trouble had already arrived. Because the past she thought she escaped had just found her. The debt she never told me about. That night, Amelia finally told me the truth. Not the polished version she used to give reporters. Not the half-truths she told friends. The ugly reality. I signed things, she admitted, staring at her hands. Ethan said it was just routine paperwork. He told me it showed unity, trust. My stomach tightened. How much? She shook her head slowly. I don't even know the exact number.
Milio, meb. Milio.
For a woman who now earned hourly wages. They're not just angry, she continued. They're desperate. If they can't get the money from Ethan, they'll come after me. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I could go to prison. The word hung in the air like a storm cloud. I should have felt anger at her recklessness, her naivety, her choices. Instead, I saw a young woman who had been dazzled, manipulated, and abandoned. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to think I came back for money, she said, tears slipping down her cheeks. Irony twisted painfully in my chest. You came back because you had nowhere else to go, I said gently. She nodded. Then she looked up, eyes filled with something fragile. But I stayed because I wanted my mom. That broke me more than anything else. I pulled her into my arms, holding her as she cried, not like a disgraced socialite, but like a scared child. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just a lesson in humility. It was a rescue mission. And the danger surrounding her was far worse than she understood. The night she tried to leave again. I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of the front door opening. Amelia stood in the hallway with a small duffel bag, shoes in hand. She froze when she saw me. I didn't want to wake you, she said softly. Where are you going? Her eyes filled with tears instantly. Away from you. The words pierced deeper than I expected. They're going to ruin anyone connected to me, she said. I can't let them hurt you too.
So she was leaving to protect me.
Not to escape poverty. Not to chase luxury.
To shield me.
I survived losing you once, I said quietly. I won't survive it again. She broke down, sliding to the floor. I'm scared, Mom, she sobbed. I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to disappear. I don't want to be alone anymore. I sat beside her, pulling her into my arms. You're not alone, I whispered. Not this time. But I don't want to destroy your life. I almost smiled. My life wasn't fragile anymore. It was fortified. You won't, I said. I promise. She cried until exhaustion took over, eventually falling asleep against my shoulder like she used to as a child. As I carried her back to bed, one thought echoed in my mind. She had chosen to stay, not because she needed money,
because she needed me.
And that changed everything. The lawyer, who knew my name. The next morning, I made a call I had been avoiding. By afternoon, a sleek black car pulled into my driveway. A woman stepped out, sharp suit, calm eyes, quiet authority. Ms. Andrews, she said, shaking my hand. It's been a while. Amelia watched from the doorway, confusion written across her face. You know my mom? She asked. The lawyer smiled politely. Very well. We sat at the dining table. I've reviewed the documents tied to Ethan's case, the lawyer said. Your daughter is exposed, but not beyond saving. Amelia's voice trembled. What does that mean? It means you were used as a shield, not the architect. Relief flooded her features, so suddenly she looked dizzy. But it will require resources, the lawyer continued, glancing at me meaningfully. Significant resources. Amelia turned to me, panic returning. Mom, you don't have to. It's handled, I said calmly. Her eyes widened. Handled how? The lawyer slid a folder across the table. Amelia opened it. Her face went completely blank. Then she looked up at me slowly, like she was seeing me for the first time. This says. Her voice failed. Yes, the lawyer said gently. Your mother is the majority owner of the Seabrook Hospitality Group. Understanding crashed over her. The hotel, my job. I met her stunned gaze. I wanted to know who you were without the world watching, I said softly. Tears spilled down her face, but this time they weren't from fear. They were from shame. The apology that changed everything. Amelia didn't speak for a long time after the lawyer left. She just sat there, staring at me like she was trying to reconcile two versions of the same person. Finally, she whispered, You were never the problem, were you? I shook my head gently. I was just poor. Her shoulders began to shake. I treated you like you were something to escape, she said, her voice cracking. But you were the only safe place I ever had. Then she did something I never expected. She slid off her chair and knelt in front of me. Not dramatically. Not performatively. Just broken. I don't deserve forgiveness, she said through tears. But I'm begging for it anyway. My heart clenched painfully. This wasn't the confident girl who had walked out of my life with designer luggage. This was my child. Stripped of ego, armor, and illusions. I can't erase what I did, she continued. But if you let me stay, I'll spend the rest of my life being someone you can be proud of. I lifted her chin, so she had to meet my eyes. I never stopped being proud of you, I said softly. I was just waiting for you to find your way back. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing. For the first time in years, it felt like I was holding my daughter, not the stranger she had become. But deep down, I knew something else. Forgiveness was only the beginning, because the world that had tried to destroy her was about to learn she wasn't alone anymore. The world finds her again. News travels fast when powerful people are involved. Within days of my lawyer's intervention, the media caught wind that Amelia had secured high-level legal representation. Speculation exploded across headlines. Disgraced socialite resurfaces. Mystery benefactor funds defense. Is Amelia Brooks planning a comeback? She sat at the kitchen table staring at the TV, pale and shaken. I don't want this, she whispered. I don't want that life back. You don't have to go back, I said gently. But they won't stop. She was right. Reporters began circling the town like sharks. Strangers lingered outside the inn. Guests whispered when she walked past. One afternoon, a young employee approached her hesitantly. Are you that Amelia? My daughter froze. For a split second, I saw the old instinct flicker, chin lifting, posture straightening, the reflex to perform. Instead, she lowered her eyes. I used to be, she said quietly. Now I just clean rooms. The girl nodded slowly, something like respect softening her expression. Later, Amelia found me on the porch. I don't want to be known for who I was, she said. I want to be known for who I am now. The sincerity in her voice made my chest ache. Outside the gates, camera flashes sparked like distant lightning. The world hadn't forgiven her. But for the first time, she wasn't asking it to. Ethan's return. He showed up unannounced. A black luxury SUV rolled into the driveway just before sunset, sleek and predatory against the quiet coastal backdrop. Amelia stepped outside beside me and froze. Ethan, she breathed, her voice hollow. He looked thinner, tired, but still polished. Still dangerous. The same charm that had once dazzled her now felt like a trap, waiting to snap shut. Amelia, baby, he said softly, stepping forward. I've been trying to reach you.
She didn't move.
I came to fix this, he continued. We can leave the country.
Start over.
I still have connections. My stomach turned. He wasn't here to save her. He was here because he needed her. I won't run, she said quietly. His expression hardened. You don't have a choice. Yes, I do. The strength in her voice surprised even me. You left me to face everything alone, she continued, eyes steady. You don't get to come back now that you're scared. For a moment, the mask slipped, revealing pure frustration underneath. You think this woman can protect you? He snapped, gesturing at me. Amelia stepped slightly in front of me. I'm not being protected, she said. I'm being loved. The silence that followed was heavy, final. Ethan studied her like he was seeing a completely different person. Then he shook his head slowly. You've changed, he muttered. Yes, she said. And I'm not going back. He drove away without another word. Amelia didn't cry. She just stood there, watching the dust settle, like she was witnessing the final burial of her old life.
The courtroom.
The hearing took place in a federal courthouse in Charleston. Reporters lined the steps. Cameras flashed the moment Amelia stepped out of the car. But she didn't wear designer armor this time. Just a simple navy dress.
No diamonds.
No performance. Inside the courtroom, the accusations sounded brutal when spoken aloud. Fraud, negligence, financial complicity. Amelia's hands trembled slightly in her lap, but she didn't look away. When it was her turn to speak, her voice shook at first, then steadied. I trusted the wrong person, she said. And I signed things I didn't fully understand. That was my mistake. But I didn't steal from anyone. And I didn't intend to harm anyone.
No excuses. No dramatics.
Just truth. The judge listened carefully, flipping through documents provided by my legal team. Finally, he spoke. Given the evidence of coercion and the defendant's cooperation, this court finds Ms. Brooks not criminally liable. The words felt unreal. No prison.
No conviction.
But not complete freedom either. You will, however, be responsible for civil restitution proportional to your involvement. A debt. But not a life-ending one. Amelia exhaled like she'd been underwater for months. As we stepped outside, the reporters shouted questions.
She didn't stop.
She just reached for my hand and held on. The offer. A week later, Amelia came home from work unusually quiet. She sat across from me at dinner, twisting her fork nervously. Mom, the manager offered me a promotion. I smiled. That's wonderful. It's supervisory training, she said. More responsibility. More pay. She hesitated. But I don't want special treatment because of you. My throat tightened. You earned it, I said. She shook her head. I want to build something on my own. Not because I used to be rich. Not because you are. Just because I worked for it. There it was, the transformation I had prayed for but never dared expect. What do you want to do? I asked. She took a deep breath. I want to stay here. Learn the business from the ground up.
Every job.
Every level. Not run away. Not leap to the top.
Climb.
Pride swelled in my chest so fiercely it almost hurt. That's exactly how I built it, I said softly. Her eyes widened. You started at the bottom too? Yes. For the first time, she didn't look embarrassed by that idea. She looked inspired. The letter. It arrived in a plain envelope with no return address. Inside was a single handwritten note. You cost powerful people a lot of money. Be careful who you trust.
No signature. No explanation.
Amelia's hands shook as she read it. They're not done, she whispered. Fear flickered in her eyes. Old fear. Deep fear. The kind that lingers long after danger passes. I folded the note calmly. They won't touch you, I said. How can you be so sure? Because this time, she wasn't alone. Because I had resources, allies, and influence she still didn't fully understand. But more importantly, because she was no longer an easy target. I took her hands in mine. Listen to me, I said gently. The people who hurt you before relied on your isolation, on your fear, on your need to belong. She swallowed hard. You don't need them anymore. A long silence passed. Then she nodded slowly. You're right, she said. I'm not that girl anymore. Outside, the ocean roared, powerful, relentless, untouchable. For the first time, I realized something profound. My revenge had never been about watching her suffer. It was about making her strong enough that no one could ever break her again. And the greatest test was still coming. The offer that tested her heart. 2 months later, a luxury car arrived at the inn. Not threatening this time.
Polished.
Official. A woman stepped out, elegant, composed, unmistakably wealthy. I'm from Halstead Global, she said, introducing herself to Amelia. We're launching a lifestyle brand and would like you as the face of our redemption campaign. Redemption. The word made my stomach twist. We're offering a 7-figure contract, the woman continued smoothly. Media training, wardrobe, relocation to Los Angeles, a chance to rebuild your public image. Everything Amelia had once worshipped. Everything she had left me for. She looked at me instinctively, not for permission, but for grounding. I'd like time to think, she said. That night, she paced the living room, anxiety radiating from her. This could fix everything, she whispered. Pay my debts. Start over. Give me independence. Or, I said gently, pull you back into a world that nearly destroyed you. She stopped pacing. I don't trust myself around that life, she admitted. I don't know if I'd become that person again. Her honesty was raw, unfiltered. So, what does your heart say? I asked. She looked toward the ocean, eyes glistening. My heart says I don't want to lose this life, or you. The next morning, she declined the offer. Not dramatically, not self-righteously, just quietly. And in that quiet decision, I knew something had shifted permanently. My daughter wasn't chasing status anymore. She was choosing peace. The people who disappeared. News of her refusal leaked quickly. The same socialites who had once toasted her success began resurfacing, suddenly friendly, suddenly nostalgic. One even showed up at the inn unannounced. Amelia. Oh my God, we were so worried about you. The woman gushed, air kissing the space near her cheek. Amelia didn't smile. Were you? She asked calmly. The woman faltered. Of course. Things just got complicated. Translation. You stopped being useful. We'd love to reconnect, she continued. There's a charity gala next month. You'd be perfect. Amelia wiped her hands on a towel, still in her work uniform. I appreciate the invitation, she said, her voice polite but firm. But I'm busy building a real life now. The woman blinked, clearly unsure how to respond. Later, Amelia found me in the garden. I used to think those people were my family, she said quietly. And now? She smiled sadly. Now I know family doesn't disappear when things get hard. She reached for my hand, not out of fear, but affection. I'm sorry it took losing everything to see that. I squeezed her fingers. Some lessons only come through fire. The final confrontation. Just when peace felt possible, Ethan returned one last time. This time, he didn't come alone. 2 lawyers stood behind him like shadows. I'm filing a civil claim, he announced coldly. Half of everything gained since our relationship began. You benefited from my success. Amelia didn't flinch. You abandoned me, she said simply. That doesn't erase legal realities. He glanced at me with thinly veiled hostility. And I'm sure your mother's resources will be relevant. Before Amelia could respond, I stepped forward. Your claim has no standing, I said calmly. And if you proceed, we will countersue for fraud, emotional distress, and documented financial manipulation. One of his lawyers shifted uncomfortably. You don't scare me, Ethan snapped. I'm not trying to scare you, I replied. I'm trying to save you from a very expensive mistake. Amelia reached for my arm, her touch steady. I don't hate you, Ethan, she said quietly. But I'm not afraid of you anymore. For the first time, he looked unsure. Powerless. After a tense moment, he turned and walked away, his legal team scrambling after him. Amelia exhaled slowly. That was the last piece of my old life, she said. And just like that, it was over. The truth about my revenge. That evening, we sat on the beach, watching the sun sink into the horizon. Golden light painted the water, soft and forgiving. Mom, Amelia said suddenly, did you bring me here to punish me? I considered the question carefully. No, I said. I brought you here to meet yourself. She frowned slightly. When you left, I asked myself one question. I continued. Did my daughter stop loving me, or did she just stop knowing who she was without luxury? Tears shimmered in her eyes. So this was a test. It was a chance, I corrected gently, to rebuild without the noise, without people telling you who to be. She wiped her cheeks, voice trembling. I hated you for a while, she admitted, but now I realize you saved me. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders. My revenge, I whispered, wasn't making you suffer. She leaned her head against me. It was making sure the world could never use you again. For the first time since she came back, her smile reached her eyes. The home she chose. 1 year later, the Seabrook Inn hosted a celebration. Not for profits. Not for expansion. For Amelia. She had completed management training, paid off a significant portion of her restitution, and become one of the most respected supervisors in the company. Not because she was my daughter, because she earned it. During the small ceremony, she stepped up to the microphone, visibly nervous. I used to think success meant escaping where you came from, she said. Now I know it means honoring the people who never gave up on you. Her eyes found mine in the crowd. I once disowned my mother because she couldn't afford the life I wanted, she continued, voice breaking. But when I lost everything, she gave me something money can't buy, a way back to myself. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Afterward, she pulled me aside and handed me a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. I'm not coming home because I have nowhere else to go. I'm coming home because it's where I want to be. Thank you for loving me when I didn't deserve it. I pulled her into my arms, holding her tighter than I had in years. Life had humbled her, but it hadn't destroyed her. It had given her back to me. And in the end, the greatest justice wasn't watching my daughter fall. It was watching her rise, this time with a heart strong enough to stay. Thank you for listening to my story. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my videos. Thank you.